mean, he's on a legendary career already.
I think Alcaraz definitely got room for improvement.
It feels like we'd seen the end of that kind of Carlos Alcaraz.
Carlos Alcaraz is 23 and already looks rich enough in trophies to retire, which is why his fading motivation has become alarming. He has admitted that stretches of the tour leave him unwilling to travel and desperate for time at home. Honest? Yes. Harmless? That is where the argument begins. Could this fatigue grow into career-ending apathy that destroys ambition long before age destroys movement? Tennis will keep spinning, ranking points expire, sponsors expect smiles, and rivals keep swinging while the calendar behaves like recovery is a hobby. Very considerate. Subscribe right now because we are examining whether Alcaraz merely needs a reset or has started losing the hunger required to survive at the summit. Fans see explosive forehands and magical drop shots, but the real battle may be invisible. When a champion stops loving the chase, every match becomes heavier, and every defeat starts sounding like permission to leave. To understand why that question has become so uncomfortable, we have to return to what Alcaraz actually admitted. During the 2024 season, he said the packed calendar made it difficult to remain motivated throughout the year. He had already played 50 singles matches, winning 41 before the Laver Cup. However, his confession went deeper than sore legs. Some days he did not want to travel to another tournament. Instead, he wanted to stay home with family and friends. That feeling is human, but professional tennis is not designed to reward ordinary human needs. It asks players to cross continents, change surfaces, handle media duties, satisfy sponsors, defend ranking points, and then act delighted when another mandatory event appears. Apparently, airport lounges are now part of athletic development. The concern is not that Carlos wants a holiday. Everyone wants one after living from suitcase to suitcase. Trouble begins when home feels more exciting than competition, because champions survive on the belief that the next trophy is worth every sacrifice. Once that trade stops feeling fair, the emotional engine can stall. Think about the strange position he occupies. Most 23-year-olds are still discovering what they can become. Alcaraz has already reached world number one, won on every surface, beaten legends, and collected prizes that other professionals chase for an entire career. Such early success can remove the clean, simple hunger that drives a young player upward. Before the first major, every practice session points toward a dream. After several majors, the goal changes. Winning once is history. Winning again becomes expectation. Suddenly, a semi-final is treated like failure. A quarterfinal becomes a crisis. And one ugly service game creates a week of television debate. What exactly is Carlos supposed to chase now? More trophies, more ranking weeks, more comparisons with Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and Roger Federer. That scoreboard never ends. Greatness moves the finish line every time you approach it. So when Alcaraz says motivation can disappear, we should not hear a spoiled star complaining about work. We should hear a young man discovering that success does not reduce pressure. It multiplies pressure, gives it a microphone, and seats it inside his player box. Yet sympathy cannot erase the competitive danger. Jannik Sinner does not need Alcaraz to collapse. He only needs Carlos to lose a few percentage points of commitment. At the elite level, that tiny drop changes everything. A late recovery step turns a defensive forehand into a winner for the opponent. One skipped training block weakens confidence under pressure. A distracted return game becomes an early break, then a lost set, then another headline asking what went wrong. Sinner has built his reputation around clean ball striking, disciplined patterns, and sustained focus. He will keep holding the baseline while Alcaraz searches for emotional fuel. Nobody across the net cares that the calendar feels cruel. They see a target, they attack the second serve, extend rallies, and test whether Carlos still wants the ugly points as much as the highlight shots. Talent produces magic, but the tour is won through repetition. Recover, practice, travel, compete, repeat. If that routine becomes emotionally unbearable, even the best forehand in tennis begins arriving half a step late. Here is the brutal rehook. Alcaraz may not be losing his ability to win, he may be losing his willingness to keep paying the price of winning. Those are completely different problems. Coaches can adjust a serve toss, physios can treat a tight muscle, analysts can study return position and rally tolerance. No spreadsheet can force a player to care. We have seen gifted athletes fade because competition stopped feeding them. Their games did not vanish overnight. First came inconsistent energy, then confusing defeats. Next arrived longer breaks, changed schedules, frustrated teams, and statements about needing a reset. Eventually, the comeback became more famous than the tennis. Is Carlos anywhere near that point? His results say no. His honesty makes the question impossible to dismiss. That tension is the entire story. Calling him finished would be absurd, but laughing at the warning signs would be equally foolish. Careers rarely end with one dramatic snap. Sometimes they quietly loosen, one missed commitment at a time. We also need to separate apathy from burnout, because the words may sound similar while describing very different realities. Apathy means the desire itself has weakened. Burnout means the desire is trapped beneath exhaustion. One suggests the player no longer values the chase, the other suggests he still values it, but cannot keep carrying its weight without recovery. Alcaraz has repeatedly shown emotion after victories and defeats. He celebrates huge points, argues with himself, pumps up crowds, and turns routine rallies into small theater productions. In fact, his problem may be that he feels everything too strongly. Every setback becomes visible. Every surge of belief explodes through his movement. Carlos plays with joy, but joy is not an endless fuel tank. When tennis becomes obligation after obligation, the same emotional openness that makes him electric can leave him vulnerable. The tour then acts surprised that a player feels drained after being marketed, filmed, measured, and compared every week. Truly shocking. Who could predict that treating a human being like a traveling content machine might eventually make the content machine want to go home? The calendar deserves serious blame. A tennis season begins in January and keeps demanding attention deep into November. Players move from Australian hard courts to European clay, then grass, North American hard courts, Asian events, indoor tournaments, team competitions, and exhibitions. Unlike athletes in a home league, tennis players rarely sleep in the same bed for long. Their workplace changes countries every week, and a defeat can mean packing bags before the sweat has dried. Top stars can choose some events, but ranking rules, mandatory commitments, contracts, and public expectations still tighten the net. When Alcaraz skips a tournament to rest, critics question his professionalism. When he plays through fatigue, those same voices ask why his team failed to protect him. It is a lovely little trap. Compete constantly, win constantly, smile constantly, and please avoid becoming tired because television has another slot to fill. Under those conditions, low motivation is not proof of weak character. It can be the mind applying an emergency brake before the body crashes through the barrier. Still, Carlos complicates his own defense when optional exhibitions appear beside complaints about the schedule. Fans are not wrong to notice that contradiction. If official tournaments are exhausting, why add showcase matches, promotional appearances, and lucrative events? Exhibitions often offer lighter emotional pressure, fewer ranking consequences, shorter commitments, and control over timing. A player can enjoy performing without carrying the fear of losing hundreds of points. Yet from the outside, tennis still looks like tennis. The same racket appears, the same celebrity smiles, and the same private flight crosses another border. That makes the complaint vulnerable to a savage return. Apparently, the schedule is deadly until the appearance fee clears. Fair? Not entirely. Funny? A little? Damaging? Absolutely. Alcaraz and his team must understand that public trust depends on choices matching words. If recovery is essential, protect it openly. Otherwise, every relaxed exhibition creates ammunition for critics who believe burnout has become a convenient label used only when ranking events feel inconvenient. So ask yourself this: are we watching a champion lose hunger, or a sport consume hunger faster than any champion can replace it? Drop your answer in the comments because that distinction decides who deserves the blame. The easiest rage bait verdict says Carlos has become soft. He earned fame, discovered luxury, and no longer wants the grind. Training at his level demands hours nobody sees. Recovery work continues after cameras leave. Tactical sessions, gym blocks, treatment, travel, sleep management, and sponsor duties fill the spaces fans call free time. A player cannot reach the top through vibes and a fashionable racket bag. Alcaraz has produced too many brutal, five-set escapes and too many fearless comebacks for anyone to claim he never cared. However, past courage does not guarantee future desire. Hunger must be renewed. Yesterday's trophy cannot play tomorrow's tiebreak. That is why his team now faces a delicate job. Keep standards high without turning tennis into a prison he is talented enough to escape. Nadal built his identity around suffering for every point. Djokovic transformed discipline into a competitive weapon. Federer made longevity look smooth, though years of careful scheduling sat beneath that elegance. Alcaraz inherited pieces of all three, then added his own speed, improvisation, and smile. The danger is that comparisons force him to copy careers built by different men in different bodies under different pressures. Fans ask whether he can win 20 majors before allowing him to enjoy the latest one. Commentators calculate his pace against legends as if life follows an Excel formula. Carlos does not need to become Nadal number 2 or chase Djokovic's calendar. He needs a version of ambition he can actually live with. Maybe that means fewer events. Perhaps it means accepting a ranking drop to protect mental freshness. Such choices would trigger criticism, but a shorter schedule that preserves desire is better than a full schedule that empties it. Longevity is not measured by how many tournaments a player enters at 23. It is measured by whether he still wants the ball at 33. The strongest evidence against the apathy accusation is what Alcaraz continues to do when the prize truly matters. He has described arriving at major tournaments hungry, ambitious, and mentally ready to block out outside noise. On the court, he has recovered from terrible starts, changed tactics, and trusted himself under scoreboard pressure. An apathetic player does not repeatedly drag himself through long rallies against the best opponents alive. Nor does he speak about improving his game and attacking new goals. His motivation appears selective rather than dead. Grand Slams light him up. Certain stretches of the weekly tour drain him. The real question is whether selective motivation can remain controlled. If Carlos only wakes up for majors, his match rhythm, ranking, and confidence could suffer between them. Tennis punishes players who treat regular events like warm-ups. Eventually, poor habits travel into the biggest stadiums. You cannot sleepwalk for months and expect your best level to arrive at center court because the trophy is shinier. Then there is the emotional cost for everyone around him. Coaches must decide when to push and when to protect. Family members see the person behind the ranking. Fitness staff monitor workload while knowing that no test can measure desire with complete accuracy. Sponsors want visibility. Tournament directors want commitments. Fans buy tickets months ahead hoping the star appears. Every choice disappoints somebody. Imagine being 23 and knowing a day at home can become an international argument about your character. If Alcaraz rests, he is called pampered. When he competes and loses, he is labeled distracted. Should he smile after defeat, critics say he does not care enough. If he looks miserable, they announce a crisis. Apparently, the approved emotional setting for a champion is joyful but furious, relaxed but obsessed, honest but never uncomfortable. Good luck finding that button. When every personal feeling becomes public evidence, players learn to hide. Carlos has chosen honesty instead, and tennis should be careful not to punish him so badly that the next champion simply lies. However, honesty must lead to action. Saying the schedule is draining solves nothing if the same pattern continues. His team needs clear priorities, protected breaks, and limits that remain firm when money or ranking points create temptation. Training should preserve the parts of tennis he loves: creativity, competition, and the thrill of solving an opponent. Scheduling should reduce empty appearances that feel like duty. Mental support should be treated like fitness work, not as emergency repair after a public collapse. Most importantly, Carlos must decide what success means now. If the only acceptable future involves breaking every record, burnout will always sit courtside. A sustainable goal may be simpler: arrive healthy, compete fully, keep improving, and leave room for life beyond the baseline. Those are standards built to survive long-term. Make sure you are subscribed because this fight will not be decided by one press conference or one tournament. It will unfold through every withdrawal, comeback, celebration, and flat performance that follows. The warning signs deserve attention, but attention should create solutions, not a funeral for a career still producing extraordinary tennis. Our verdict has to be blunt. Career-ending apathy is possible in any athlete, but it is not the fairest description of Alcaraz today. The evidence points more strongly toward periods of fatigue, calendar frustration, and a young champion learning how to manage success. Yet that does not make the danger fake. Burnout ignored for long enough can harden into detachment. Repeated obligation can drain joy until the player remembers freedom more clearly than victory. Carlos stands at a fork in the road. One path chases every event, every point, and every expectation until something breaks. The other builds boundaries, accepts criticism, and protects the hunger that made him dangerous. Still, nobody should mock him for wanting home, but nobody around him should pretend desire automatically returns because a major begins. Motivation needs space, purpose, and honest management. Without those, the brightest game of his generation could slowly dim while everyone argues over whether the lights were ever failing. Carlos Alcaraz is not standing at career match point yet, but the warning clock has started. Like this video if you believe burnout, not apathy, is the real opponent. Subscribe so you do not miss what happens when his next test arrives, and drop your final verdict in the comments right now. Is Carlos wisely protecting the human being behind the champion, or is he gradually losing the obsession required to dominate tennis? His trophies prove where he has been. His hunger will decide where he goes next. The racket remains loaded, the court remains open, and the chase continues. Whether Alcaraz still loves that chase may become the biggest result of all.